Randy, it says we're live on YouTube, so I think the meeting is now.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. This is State Fair Community College. We're having our regular monthly board meeting via Zoom, and welcome. I will call this meeting to order. And in front of each of the board members, you should have received an agenda, and I need a motion and a second, and then we'll have a roll call vote.
Motion we move. Oh, go ahead.
Or
Patty.
second, either way.
Okay. Oh.
Patty and Nick.
Yeah, Patty motioned. I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay, roll call. Randy Eaton,
Yes.
Justin Hubbs,
Yes.
Nick Lestrada,
Yes.
Jim Page,
Yes.
Richard Parker,
Yes.
Patty Wood.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And again, I would like for everyone to take just a moment of silence so that we can think about Dr. Autumn Porter's family and the loss of her husband. So if we would take just a moment for that, I would appreciate that very much. Okay, thank you. And we're all thinking of Autumn and her entire family. Okay, Jolene, do we have any citizens' comments?
No, we do not.
Okay, and then you would have in front of you also in your packet would have been the minutes for the November 19th meeting and then the special board meeting on December the 8th. And we will have a motion on both of those at the same time. I'll need a motion and a second and then a roll call vote.
I motion we move.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay.
Randy Eaton,
Yes.
Justin Hubbs,
Yes.
Nick Lestrada,
Yes.
Jim Page,
Yes.
Richard Parker,
Yes.
Patty Wood.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, and item number 5 is our audit that we receive annually. And I think Keith is going to talk to us on that. Is that correct? Hello, Keith. You might be muted, Keith.
Yeah, I'm good.
Good now.
Okay.
Yes, we'll present it. I'll have Rebecca Baker, who's the lead auditor, our lead auditor with KPM, present the audit report to you, answer any questions you may have about it. And then at the conclusion of the audit, I'll give you some perspective on my interpretation of the numbers for you and comparisons to some. So if you're ready, everybody, we can have Rebecca come on and she can present to you the results of our fiscal year 20 audit.
Okay.
Thank you, Keith. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. You should either have a paper copy of the audit report. I'm going to try to share my screen just so I can put the numbers up in front of you that I'm looking at. We'll see if this works. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so if you want to follow along, we're going to start on page 3, which is our independent auditor's report. Right here. So as Keith said, my name is Rebecca Baker. I'm a partner with KPM CPAs out of Springfield, and we have audited the college's financial statements as of June 30, 2020. And I'm just going to briefly review those highlights with you today. And so on page 3 is our independent auditor's report. We perform an audit to determine if the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And then we issue our opinion based on the results of that audit. And we have issued an unmodified or clean opinion, which is the best opinion that you can get. So congratulations. Okay, next we'll go down to page 7. I'm gonna see if I can It's not letting me click the numbers, so I'm gonna have to scroll down. So page 7 is where the management's discussion and analysis portion of the audit begins. This section is not audited. We do not issue our opinion on this section. However, I wanted to point it out. It's about 5 or 6 pages long. If you don't read any other part of the audit report, it gives a really good overview of what happened financially for the year for the college. So I did want to point this section out. It's called required supplementary information by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. So you are required to present this. However, it is not audited. Okay, next we will go to page 14. Page 14 is where the financial statements begin. So this is the combined statement of net position. So this does include the college and the foundation. And there are combining statements in the notes to the financial statements. Those start on page 41, and that will actually show a column for the foundation and the college and how those amounts combine. However, this is just combined information that I'm going to go over really briefly. So you can see here total assets were 66 million at year end. This was a decrease of about 634,000 from the previous year. Total liabilities were about 32 million. This was a decrease of about 2.2 million. And total net position for the college was 37.5 million. So I wanted to point out these deferred outflows and inflows here that you see, these large numbers, those are all related to the pension plan in your OPEB, which is because the college allows retirees on the health insurance. There is an implicit rate subsidy that you're paying higher premiums for those people that are allowed on the plan. So you have inflows and outflows and liabilities that are associated with those that impact your financial statements. And I wanted to point out that information because the negative impact that that has on your financial statements at the end of 2020 was about $18.4 million. So this 37 million, really, if you took those out of the equation, because that's not a cash expense that you're ever going to have to pay. So your ending net position would in fact be 55 million if you took those factors out. Keith and I kind of talked about it a little bit. You know, what can we do to anticipate what that expense is going to be every year and what that change is in that liability and those deferred inflows and outflows. And really, there's nothing you can do. Those numbers are based on an actuary calculation that is done once a year, and PSRS and peers, and then the OPEB calculations are based on that information. So the expense that the college had to recognize this past year for those items was a little over 2 million. It was about 2.1 million. Now that's not a cash outflow. However, it is an expense that you are required to report on your financial statements to be in accordance with the GASB standards. And I went back, that standard started back in 2015. So back in June 30, 15, the net effect it had was about 12.6 million on your financial statements. So that has increased over the past 5 years, and now it's 18.4 million. So it's really hard to anticipate how that's going to change in the future. Okay, next we'll turn the page to 15. Page 15 is the combined statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. Total operating revenues were 34.7 million. This was an increase of about 1.5 million from the previous year. Total operating expenses were about 47.9 million. That was an increase of about 2.1 million. And remember that 2.1 million is about the amount of the expense that you had to recognize for those changes in those liabilities and deferred inflows and outflows. And then if you go down, you'll see operating loss was about 13.2 million. Then you have your state appropriations were 5.2 million. This was a decrease of about 743,000 from the previous year. Tax revenue is 3.9 million. This was an increase of about 250,000 from the previous year. Gifts and donations, which of course includes the foundation, increased over $1 million for the year. Investment income actually decreased 244,000 for the year. And then you can see here the college paid about 265,000 in interest related to debt. So the change in net position was a decrease of 909,000. If you look at the change in the college, actually, if you took out that 2.1 million, that is a non-cash expense, the college actually had a decrease of about 472,000, and the foundation actually increased 1.6 million over the year. Okay, next we'll go to page 18. Page 18 is where the notes to the financial statements begin. They last about 25 pages long, and the notes are a required part of the financial statements. We do issue our opinion on the notes, and they just give more details on the college's significant accounting policies, what types of investments that the college is holding, future debt service. There's more information on the pension, etc. So I do encourage you to read the notes in conjunction with the financial statements. The next thing I want to go over is our federal compliance audit, and we will turn to page 57. The college had about $15.4 million in federal spending for June 30, 2020. And anytime you have over $750,000 in federal spending, you are required to have a uniform guidance and compliance audit. So this kind of summarizes the results of our audit. So at the top, you'll see here, this is the financial statement audit that you received an unmodified opinion, which we already discussed. If we identify any deficiencies in internal control over financial reporting, we would report those deficiencies here. We do not have any deficiencies to report or non-compliance that are material to the financial statements as part of our audit. This next section is about the federal award programs. And we did not identify any material weaknesses in internal control over the federal programs. However, we did identify a significant deficiency in internal control over the major federal programs. And that's just because we had two findings on the student financial assistance cluster. That doesn't modify our opinion. We still issued an unmodified opinion on compliance over the federal award programs. So a significant deficiency is not as severe as a material weakness. If we thought it was a material weakness, then we would have to modify our opinion over your federal program compliance. So you can see here, these are the two programs that we tested, the Student Financial Assistance Cluster, and then we also tested the Education Stabilization Fund because the college spent funds for the student portion and the institution portion during June 30, 2020. So we didn't have any findings on the Education Stabilization Fund program, but we did for the Student Financial Assistance Cluster. So the next 2 pages kind of go over those findings. I'm just gonna summarize those very briefly. The first one was on enrollment reporting. When a student withdraws, you have a certain amount of time to report that. And that wasn't reported within the specific time frame. So we had a sample of 40 students. One student out of that sample was not reported properly. So even though it seems pretty insignificant, the Department of Ed wants to know any instances that didn't follow the rules. So we do have to report that. And then on the next page, it was disbursements to or on behalf of students. A student withdrew during the semester and the college had to return funds to that student. The calculation was completed, but then the funds were never returned to the student. They were eventually, but not within the required time frame. So that's just something that we have to report. And that was a sample of 25 students, and we just had one student that didn't get their funds returned on time. So I did want to point out, going over these findings, the college had 2 findings in the previous year. They were different findings, and the college corrected those findings in the current year. So that always looks good to the Department of Education if you had findings in a previous year and you don't have those same repeat findings. So that is good. And we do note that here in this section to the Department of Ed that those findings were corrected. So these will be reported to them. It's a very complicated program. There's so many people involved in the process for the student financial aid and all of the reporting information that's required. So it's very common to have a finding in this program. But I just want to point out it's very common, and the opinion was not altered in any way because of these compliance requirements. It's just something we're required to report to the Department of Ed. So does anyone have any questions over anything I've gone over so far? Yes, Keith?
Show them page 42 for a second, because that is where
Okay.
it's out between the two, and I think that's helpful to see.
Okay.
You want me to speak, or you want to speak?
Oh,
Why don't you
is
show
there something specific you wanted to go over?
them how, the difference between the college and the foundation? It's because the foundation obviously changes the way the college looks and vice versa. So you might just walk through some of the same things you did for just the college only when you were going over the operating revenues and then particularly the change in that position and then what, as is impacted by some of the GASB pension liability things.
Sure. So you can see the college is in the first column and then the foundation is in the second column. And then these eliminations are just funds that are transferred between the college or the foundation. So we eliminate those items. I don't have the specific numbers of how revenues and expenses changed. However, you can kind of see in the expenses, I believe if I remember off the top of my head, the foundation expenses actually decreased a little bit this year. So that 664,000 was a decrease from the previous year. The college, the change in net position was almost 2.6 million. So if you took out that 2.1 million that we talked about, that expense that's not a cash out expense, the college really just decreased $470,000. So it is important to look at these separately, and the combining statements are required. However, we look at, for the audited financial statements, they're looked at as one unit because the foundation is basically here for the college. Was there anything else specifically, Keith, that you wanted to point out in here?
I wanted them to understand where that was because I'll be referring to it later, and just to know that, not to understand there is a place where they can see the college in by itself and not everything combined together into the big pot where
Sure. And if you go up to the page before that, you'll see the statement of net position. So it separates the assets and the liabilities out between the college and foundation as well. The last thing I wanted to go over was the management letter.
I had a
And
question.
we just had one recommendation.
Excuse me. I had a
sorry.
question for Dr. Anderson or Dr. Bates. We had an issue with the student not being reported withdrawn from a class, withdrawn from school. Is that right?
Go ahead.
Rebecca, if you can explain, that would be fine, or Keith.
Sure. And it's in more detail here, but it was kind of a weird situation. And I think the way that student financial aid system was set up was incorrect. So they had a student who attended an 8-week course. They were enrolled in an 8-week course and a 16-week. And they finished the 8-week course, but then they withdrew and they never finished the other course. Well, the system somehow didn't identify that that student had withdrawn because they had completed the 8-week course.
That's my question. Where was the breakdown? Why wasn't that student reported as withdrawn?
Well, there's a response here from the college, and what Angel said in the system, it said the student withdrew after they completed their first 8-week class, but the system somehow coded that student as eligible to enroll, so they didn't appear on the withdrawal report. So that was an error in the system. And Angel did say they've worked with the IT department and they're reviewing this, the part of term withdrawals, because it had something to do with the fact that that student was in an 8-week course and a 16-week course. And I guess there were several students that fell under this same, we only had one in our sample, but they found that there were several that didn't get reported because of this IT issue. But they did say that it has been corrected and they've implemented checks in place to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Okay, my concern is where was it happening? I haven't read that particular page, so I'll have to understand that better.
Were there any other questions? Okay, I'll go back to the management letter. We have a couple new pronouncements that will impact the college in the next couple years. I talked about both of these last year because they were supposed to be in effect. Well, one of them was supposed to be in effect for the 2020 year. However, it got delayed due to COVID. And that's GASB number 84, fiduciary activities. So if the college is holding any funds for any organizations, if you're the fiscal agent for a grant or something like that, then you will have to report those funds on fiduciary financial statements in the audit report. Currently, that's not a requirement. So that's effective for the June 30, 2021 fiscal year. The second item is GASB 87 leases. And this is related to operating leases. So the college does rent buildings for campus operations if they're longer than a year term. Currently, those aren't shown as a liability on the financial statements of the college. With this new GASB 87, you will have to show those items as a liability and basically an intangible asset on your financial statements at that time. So that's not effective till June 30, 2022. And I know I've talked to Diane and Keith about this, and I know that they're coming up with a list of items that will fall under that requirement. If you have equipment rentals, that would also fall under that. And also if you're renting or have people paying you for a lease, those also qualify for this new standard. So we're just reminding you that that effective date is June 30, 2022. Okay, that's all I have to go over. Are there any other questions before I go? Okay, it doesn't look like it. I would like to let the board know in closing that while we're here during the course of the audit, everybody at the college is very helpful and cooperative and professional. And Diane takes really good care of us, and Keith and all of the staff that we interact with during the course of our audit. Angel does a lot of work for us too. We really appreciate everybody's cooperation during the course of the audit and wanted you to know that.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate you taking the time. There's a lot of information here. And I know you went over it quickly, but as always, we appreciate you letting us know kind of the highlights of that. And if we have any particular questions, we can raise those questions. But again, we're glad to know that overall the college is performing well. We would like for it to be better, of course, but in these kind of unusual times, we have to deal with that. And so, but I appreciate all the effort that you did. And if there's, we always feel comfortable knowing that if there's something that we as the board needs to know, or things that need to be changed, that you're always willing to pass that on to us, and we can discuss that at the time. But again, thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you.
So
Next on the agenda, you'll see that we need to.
Randy?
Oh, yes. Yes,
Keith,
I'm sorry. Keith?
Randy, let me share. I've got a sheet that I want to show you that you don't have in your book.
Oh,
So
okay.
I want to give you some perspective on what these numbers mean a little bit relative to last year, so you get some understanding. So I showed you this last year. I'm going to show you next year about kind of a reconciled look at when you kind of take out some of the things like the GASBs and things talked about. See, how did we do? I mean, kind of what it comes down to. So let me share my screen for a second.
Okay.
And let me get the right screen to share. And I'll try to make it big enough for you to see. So give me a second here. Okay.
That's pretty small, Keith.
I know, hang on. I'm trying to see what you're seeing right now. I can't even see what you're seeing. So I'm going to stop this and start over. And I will make it larger. I'm going to bring this to a different place. All right. It always does this when you want to do something fast, doesn't it? All right, I'm just going to make it bigger on the screen than I have it on. So what I can't see is what you're seeing, unfortunately. So I may just read it to you, but I'm going to make this bigger. That help at all?
We're
Right
not
now,
seeing it
Keith,
yet.
we're not seeing your screen.
Oh, great. All right. Well, then that's no wonder. Let's try this again. Are you seeing anything?
Yes, now we are.
Yeah.
I wish I could see the screen that I'm sharing with you, but for some reason I can't.
I don't know why it's only coming in a part way.
All right, because I made it big.
Yeah.
Is that better?
A little bit better.
No, because it's unreadable. It's too small.
Yeah, you should be able to pull it. It looks like it's you haven't optimized it.
Go full
seems.
screen.
Yeah, go full
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, I can't even see what I'm showing you. It's what's making me mad. I literally can't see what you're seeing. That help at all?
No,
Gone.
you've
Why don't
lost
you,
us.
just explain to us the reconciliation, kind of what you were wanting to
I may have
run
to.
down. Okay.
So if you remember on the audit, I'll go to page, tell you what, go to the page that you go to page 42.
Keith, you could send it to Jolynn and she could share.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
I'll stop sharing.
If we've all got it, we don't need to do that. We've got it right here in front of us.
Move it to your landscape. Mark's helping me out. First, I need to stop. Did I stop sharing?
I
Yeah.
did it for you.
Huh? Okay, you ended it. Thank you. So you go to page 40. Let's just go to page 42, right? Page 42, what you'll see there, and I got to pull this up so now I can read my. You'll see that our change in net position was the 2,571,382, right? I am going to send this to you, Jolynn, okay? Because I think it's important they see the other year. So can we come back to this if you want to go to a new topic? I'm asking
We could move forward and go ahead and accept the audit, and then we can have an explanation of that during board discussion.
that will work for me. And I can get this to Jolynn.
Okay, will that work for you, Keith?
Yeah, because it doesn't change the audit at all. It's just
Okay.
me give you some explanation.
Okay, well then let's move forward. Next, item number 5 is we need to have a motion and a second to accept the audit that was presented ending June 30th, 2020. That was just explained to us, and we each have a copy of that audit. Need a motion?
Also move.
I'll second.
Okay, Jolynn?
Roll call. Randy Eaton,
Yes.
Justin Hubbs,
Yes.
Nicholas Strata,
Yes.
Jim Page,
Yes.
Richard Parker,
Yes.
Patty Wood.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item number 6, the warrant. Keith, that's you as well.
Okay, well, I'm assuming all of you have that. So I'm not even going to attempt to share screen. For the month of November, we had cash outflows of $3,582,045. Of that, 1.6 million was accounts payable, 943,000 payroll. Again, very much in line with what I would expect at this time of year.
And Justin, he guaranteed that all the dollars were there to pay all those bills, right?
He did.
Make a motion, we approve.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
I didn't hear who did the motion on the first.
Nick, I think.
I did second.
Jim was first.
Jim was
Jim.
first. I seconded
Okay,
it.
thank you. Roll call. Randy Eaton,
Yes.
Justin Hubbs,
Yes.
Nicholas Strata,
Yes.
Jim Page,
Yes.
Richard Parker,
Yes.
Patty Wood.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, we're going to have our institutional report. And I guess Dean Rogg is going to do that from someplace.
Good afternoon, and
All right. Good afternoon.
thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about some exciting new hardware and technology we have. And I would say, as part of introduction, instructor Daniel So for the Engineering Design Technology program completed the application for a foundation mini grant. And that's what made this possible. He was able to purchase the software and the camera. And we did have a student do the bulk of this work. The student completed his semester, and we would have liked to have had him here today, except he is gainfully employed and on the job, so he couldn't make it today. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Daniel and let Daniel walk you through some of the work that was completed last semester. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Michael. I'm going to share my screen with you. I've got a few things to go over. So I will also add that Eric Fudge was instrumental in helping me get that Foundation Mini grant. So our original proposal to the foundation was that we want to be able to create two things. We want to create a virtual tour that we can post on the website in cases where students aren't able to get to campus before the first day of classes. That way they can virtually walk the halls, find their classrooms, different things before they ever get here. The second purpose was also to create an accurate CAD model of all of our buildings. And I'll go over that in more detail here shortly. So what we ended up doing, we purchased a camera called a Matterport camera. And what that allowed us to do was it allows us to create virtual tours, and this is just through Matterport software. It allows us to create virtual tours, walkthroughs, and interactive spaces. And I'll show you that a little bit here in a few minutes. The CAD model that we're working on is more for in-house use. We want to be able to provide to maintenance and IT, updated classrooms, walls have been moved around, classrooms have been renovated, things like that. So we want to be able to make sure that especially for space planning purposes, we're able to have the most accurate drawings. So in terms of a virtual tour, we're just looking at, and this presentation was put together by my student. So we just wanted him to kind of bullet point out what he was doing and why he was doing it. So the virtual tour, there are two types of tours. There's the interactive tour, and then we also use a software called Camtasia to create just kind of a dedicated video walkthrough. So one of them is interactive, the other one is just a pure video. Hit play and it'll walk you through a building or a classroom. So this is just a real quick example of one of the video tours. So each of the dots you see on the floor is a physical scan position where the camera mounts on a tripod, and then we physically go and move from position to position. Each position takes about 30 seconds for the camera to fully rotate around. And then we just move along about every 3 to 5 feet between scan positions. So that's here in Fielding. And then also here's one of the health science labs. And what we've started to do, and I'll show you a little bit more of this through the interactive tours, is that we've started to turn these over to our recruiters and our community liaisons so that they can then be able to use these in their efforts right now. Because we're not physically able to go visit schools and things like that. So our facilities, we still want to be able to show them off. So our community liaisons and recruiters are actively using not only these videos, but these tours to show off our facilities. So from here, I'll switch over to another software. So this is provided to me by Justin O'Neill. This is the original plans that were provided to us for Fielding when it was built. As you can see, you can kind of tell in here, get your bearings based on the hallways here, but you can tell that a lot of this has changed over the years. So initially we started with this and took it into our software called Revit. And we added in, I had a student go in with a tape measure and kind of redo some walls and make sure that all the doors were where they're supposed to be. And then we took our scan model here and we laid that out on top. And from there, we found out that some of the drawings, the walls were maybe shifted off a little bit by, maybe 6 inches in one direction. Another wall was shifted 6 or 8 inches in another direction. So using this camera, we're able to provide accurate real world data rather than hoping that the plan drawings are accurate. So from a CAD space planning perspective, that's where the Matterport camera is key. From here, I'll show you a few of our interactive tours that we're putting together. So this one is a fielding, and I know it doesn't look like much right now, but if I click in here, this is literally the image that the Matterport camera itself took. And just using the arrow keys on my keyboard, I can enter classrooms, anything that we've been inside, it's possible to go into in here. But I'll point out, and I'll go down here to precision machining. And keep in mind all of this is just our preliminary pass through on our model. But the camera is able to provide enough detail that you can get in close enough and pretty much read what's on any of these given toolboxes or machines. If I come over here, we can look at one of these lathes. So the idea is right now I've got Fielding, Heckert, and Yater modeled, as well as a lot of the health sciences labs, so that we can not only provide those to our recruiting group, but also our individual instructors as they go out and do some recruiting as well. So this is in progress. We're still learning. What questions do you guys have?
Well, it's very impressive. It looks, I commend your team and all of us involved. One question that I didn't catch on the front end was that this was some form of a mini grant that funded this. And
correct.
Who was the source of that funding?
So this was a State Fair Foundation mini grant.
Oh, the money came from the foundation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Daniel, how long did it take you guys to go through the whole facility? To get very detailed.
Yeah, I mean, so this is all of Fielding all the way down to the Thompson Conference Center. I'd say this took the better part of a week. And then I can hop over here to Heckert. Like I'd say each building probably took about a week.
Well, the detail is phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's quite outstanding.
So just so you know, we had looked at hiring a company to do this kind of thing for us, and it has a hefty price tag. So I just want to commend Daniel and his intern, who did a tremendous amount of work, their time on getting this set up, learning the equipment. It was a tremendous learning experience for the student, but also just we're really grateful for Daniel and his time as well. And I think for students wanting a virtual tour and wanting to know what our labs are like, our community liaisons and recruiters can utilize this in a really good way. It'll be on our website. And I think it's just a phenomenal project and truly appreciate what Daniel has been able to do. Randy, you might not have known the foundation has made many grants available for the last couple of years. I can't remember how long. And so we've had some really good projects as a result of those grants being able to be applied for and gotten.
Well, that's great. Yeah, and it's nice to know that it's in-house. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see where this could be. Hopefully your recruiters will kind of get excited about this. I can see where this would be a great tool for them, talking to a potential student. They could get a feel for the facility, and to a young person, this is showing that the technology and the interest in the details is a big part of State Fair. So that's encouraging. That's great.
The applications for this are endless. I've started speaking with Robert Rawlings, architects, who's on my advisory board, and they want to, give an opportunity for students to be able to go into some of their completed buildings and use the camera there. So we've got a lot of different possibilities here. I've mentioned to Michael that I'd also like to get into the Workforce Innovation Center as it's going up and image that in its different phases. So we've got a lot of different possibilities here.
Yeah, and I was going to add to that 2 points to there. Like, there can't be very many institutions using this technology. It's a newer technology, but what the student is learning through Matterport, I know that's an up and coming software through like the real estate industry. So that's an early on thing that they can learn that I think is going to be beneficial long term. You brought up Rawlings. I mean, that's the exact platform that these guys are going to. So I think it's a great win for our college to be able to showcase our buildings and to teach our kids an up and coming technology.
Yeah.
I
agree with you, Justin.
The work they did in creating a accurate as-built drawing for the building can really be beneficial as we begin to automate buildings too. That's really useful and important data. And as we see more and more facilities go in and begin that process of automated building, this technology becomes more valuable. So I just think Daniel and his crew did a great job on this.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Nice.
Daniel.
Thank you so much.
Daniel, if I'm remembering this right, aren't you an alum of State Fair?
I am.
And
yes.
then, so this is one of our alums who went on to the University of Central Missouri and is now back with us. So I just want to showcase, what an awesome alum we have in an instructor here at our college.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Daniel.
Okay. Next on our agenda is a resolution concerning the financing, which we had discussed earlier on the Olin Howard Workforce Innovation Center. And I think Keith and maybe Dr. Anderson and some others. I see Adam has come on, so I'll turn it over to you all.
All right, so Adam Pope with Columbia Capital is with us today if we need to answer any questions about the financing proposal that we received or how the actual financing is being structured. But on Friday, we received, it was our deadline to receive proposals for financing of the Olin Howard Workforce Innovation Center. We received one proposal, but it was the right proposal. It was a proposal from Equity Bank. I want you to know today, as part of this proposal, their president, Craig Anderson, and their head of strategic imperatives, Julie Huber, were in town, came to town to visit us to talk to Dr. Anderson and I about the project, their excitement with it, and their extreme interest in making this done. So I want to go over that proposal and the resolution we need to pass so that we continue to move forward with this. So I'll just kind of read through the actual item on the agenda. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the formal resolution approving a project to be financed with the proceeds of a lease purchase agreement pursuant to RSMO section 177.088 and approving the proposal of Equity Bank as lender. So Equity Bank, Wichita, Kansas, responded to our proposal. The proposal is for financing of anywhere from $4 million to $6 million. They're willing to take the low end or the high end or anywhere in between over a 10-year period. And their proposal is based on taking the baseline of the 10-year Treasury note rate with, plus a 2.35% yield. At the time when they presented this, the 10-year financing rate was 0.92. I think I looked at it the other day, it was down to 0.90. It could have changed today. So that would equal to a 3.27% interest rate at the time they presented the proposal. That rate would be locked at the time we went to loan committee and the loan was approved. Then it is also recommended the board authorize the president and vice president to execute the required documents. That's also part of the resolution itself. So if you look at the resolution itself, it basically reiterates this, that we approve the project, we approve it's a lease purchase agreement, a lease leaseback agreement is how this is being done, and that we approve Equity as the person. As the lender, once we go forward with this, once we get loan approval, we bring this back to you for final approval. There's no approval being given to actually enter into the contract, simply to go forward and get the contract, get the financing done, and then bring it back to you for final approval. So are there any questions of myself or Adam Pope with Columbia Capital, who helped us do the sourcing here, who's done many of these arrangements? If there's anything he can answer about anything on the proposal.
And
Adam,
particularly for our newer board members, Adam and his company have been involved with the college on previous occasions and have handled that type of financing very professionally, and it's kind of a specialized field. And I don't know if anyone has any particular questions, but Columbia Capital has, from my experience with the college, has done a very nice job, and I feel very comfortable with them, as I think all of our previous boards have as well.
I would just mention, this is a little bit of a complicated structure because of the CDBG and the NAP and so on. So Tony Stegeman has been at Gilmore and Bell, the attorney, making sure that we're doing everything by the book. So the resolution is a requirement. And then we would probably need, Randy, for you to call a special board meeting as soon as we can get the paperwork and the terms ready to go and the lending agreement ready to be approved. We would need to come back, and we would like to do that as early in January as possible. So probably would need a special board meeting when we're at that point.
Okay.
Adam, anything you want to add?
No, I think you've all you've done a good job. The goal, I think Tony's going to try to get kind of initial documents out next week, and then there'll be some back and forth with the bank and their counsel to get those in shape. They're pretty standard documents for this type of financing. There is, as Dr. Anderson mentioned, some unique aspects because of the NAP credits and things like that. But generally, it's pretty standard documents. So there'll be some, back and forth. And since we have the holidays, it'll probably be early January before we can get all those documents finalized. But we've had some good conversations already with the bank, clearing up, just making sure everybody's on the same page and everyone's pushing in the same direction. And we, like Keith and Dr. Anderson mentioned, we feel very comfortable with them as a partner. They're excited for the project. They want to be involved with the college and continue the relationship they have. So we think it is a good partner for this financing.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Any other comments? If not, then we will need a motion and a second to accept this resolution as Keith described, and you have it in your document here on our agenda that just kind of describes what we'll be doing. And as Dr. Anderson mentioned, once the final documents are completed, we'll probably need to have a special board meeting to approve those documents. So do I hear a motion?
I would
So
move
moved.
the adoption of resolution 121720 as presented in the agenda document distributed prior to this meeting.
Second.
Richard and Patty. Okay,
Roll call.
Joanne?
Randy Eaton,
Yes.
Justin Hubbs,
Yes.
Nicholas Strata,
Yes.
Jim Page,
No.
Richard Parker,
Yes.
Patty Wood.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Adam, for joining.
Thanks, Adam.
Absolutely.
Okay, item number 9 is a kind of an exciting thing that we're able to look at and consider.
I'll kind of kick that off. At the work session that we had, the retreat in November, we gave you a picture of the budget and we talked about the opportunity to give the employees a mid-year compensation. And so this is, as we described, that we are bringing to you today the recommendation that we would increase the faculty base salary by 1.5% and then provide those faculty that are eligible for a step, that they would also get the step increase, and that full-time and permanent part-time non-instructional staff would get a 2% salary increase. And this would become effective January 1 of 2021. And also the caveat that compensation for secondary, special, or added job duties would not be increased at this time. And the pay increase has been considered with respect to the budget, which Keith has shown you before, but if you have any specific questions about what this salary increase would be, Keith can clarify that for you. But we are excited to make this recommendation.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I motion we move.
Second?
I'll second.
Roll call. Randy Eaton,
Yes.
Justin Hubbs,
Yes.
Nicholas Strata,
Yes.
Jim Page,
Yes.
Richard Parker,
Yes.
Patty Wood.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all. And I'm so pleased that the college and its operation is able to follow through with. I know that we all wanted to do something earlier, but with the times and the budget, we weren't sure. But I'm so pleased that we're able to move forward and do that beginning in January. Dr. Anderson, it's up to you.
Thank you very much. On Monday, it was a big day on Monday. We had our health sciences commencement and pinning. It was held live via YouTube at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So at this time, I would just like to compliment our health science faculty and staff and those who put that commencement and pinning together. I think some of you have seen that in the past. I don't know if you were able to on Monday, but when we do it virtually, the families of our health science students are able to pin their graduate, and it's just a really meaningful ceremony. So congratulations to all of them, and especially our graduates. Then we took time to break ground for the Olin Howard Workforce Innovation Center, and I just want to express appreciation to all those who took part in the ceremony. It was great to have Governor Parson on campus, Mayor Katie speaking about the relationship and partnership with the city for the CDBG grant. And then, of course, our named gift from Darlene Bradbury and Shirley Rowden, who were also presented with their MCCA Award of Distinction that they had won. We were able to give it to them at that venue. And then our workforce partners, Paul Dick and Kevin Vandeven, talked about the importance of this facility to workforce training. Then Joe Fisher and Randy, thank you both as president of the board and the foundation board you had great remarks. So thank you for participating. I would tell you that yesterday, Governor Parson, and you might have seen this in the news and wonder about it, he announced an additional $10.1 million for the A+ scholarship program. And if you didn't see that, you might want to go out and look it up. But because of the additional students attending community college and using A+, there was a shortfall in funding to fully fund those students. And we've been working behind the scenes to try to get that worked out so that neither the students nor the institutions that they were attending using those A+ funds would be left holding the bag, I guess you could say, if they weren't fully funded. So appreciation to Governor Parson for coming through with that. If there's any additional needs, it may be proposed in the supplemental budget when the legislature convenes. Also wanted to let you know, I don't know if any of you have seen any of the Healthcare Heroes banners that are located in front of the healthcare facilities throughout our region, but on Friday, December 11th was Healthcare Heroes Gratitude Day, and our health science students worked with our marketing department to create banners. Then they put together also goodie care packages, I guess you could say, and went and took those to all of the healthcare partners throughout our service region pretty much. And I know you can find photos of that on our Facebook page. And they also did an amazing video just saying thank you to the healthcare heroes that are there. So if you haven't seen that, and if you're not on Facebook and you want it, we'll be glad to provide you with it. But oh, it's on YouTube. You can get the link off of YouTube as well. Search for that. Would let you also know that in this time of being remote and the DOM not able to have their annual crafting time during the Jingle on the Green, they put together craft packets. You might have seen an article about that in the Democrat, but compliments to the DOM staff for continuing that fun activity for the community and keeping their engagement with our community. We are planning, I want you to know, for a live commencement for 2021. And it's in our calendar for Friday, May 14th. We have a commencement group that's working on the logistics of that, but I'm excited because we want to be in person and we will give you all of the details. But today we did have a meeting over at the Mathewson Center. We will be moving the health sciences commencement into the Mathewson Center, and it will be at 1 o'clock on Friday, May 14th. And then the general commencement that evening at 7. We will have the AEL commencement at 10 a.m. the following Saturday on the 15th. So just telling you about those dates, and that preparation is underway so that we can have an in-person commencement if all holds as we are planning right now. Jim, you had asked about athletics going forward, and so this is what I have to report right now is that, you know, NJCAA moved all of the fall sports into the spring, and for soccer that means they won't play until the weather gets warmer in spring. But for basketball, their games would have typically started here in this fall semester. Those won't be starting until January. But we have made the decision, our COVID team, along with our athletic department, that there will be no fans in the stands through January. And then they will reassess to see how to move forward if all is going well at the 1st of February. I just want to say compliments to our athletic department, because this isn't an easy decision when many other athletic departments are not putting restrictions either on the number of fans and but I think it's the reasonable and right thing to do because, as you know, currently our hospital system, our healthcare system for Pettis County is challenged, and we're trying to do all we can to keep our employees, our students, and our community safe. And I'll give more report in January when those students come back and we have hopefully good news to share that they report back healthy and well. They are coming in early enough, and all of the community colleges agreed that there would be a quarantine time before students begin to play other teams. So we are bringing in students in time for them to be tested and quarantined before their first games. Also want you to know that Rachel Dawson is putting together an HR advisory committee. They will begin meeting in January. Individuals who wanted to serve on that committee had to complete an application, and that group will begin looking at our health benefits, and there's some other items on their agenda to be looking at as advising our HR efforts. The Employee Engagement Committee, they wanted to do something so bad because generally this time of year they would be planning the winter holiday party for January, and we said that can't occur in person. So they did a Secret Santa event, and employees could sign up if they wanted to, and those Secret Santa gifts were to be provided by tomorrow. So if people are participating, that was a fun thing. Just want to express appreciation to Polly and all of those who serve on that Employee Engagement Committee. They're trying to keep our employees communicating and enjoying each other as best we can. Some of you mentioned at the beginning of this meeting before we went live that it is Dr. Bates' birthday, but I just wanted to say to those watching, you know, it's happy birthday, Dr. Bates. And then finally, our holiday break begins at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, December 22nd. The college will close. The college will then reopen on Monday, January 4th. And our employees have been absolutely amazing this semester, pulling together in ways that I don't think we could even envision before the pandemic hit. So I just wish that everyone has a safe and healthy holiday break and a very Merry Christmas.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Anderson. There are lots of things going on our campus, even though we do have the COVID restrictions, but thank you for bringing us up to date. Next on our agenda is a financial report, and Keith, it's back to you.
Well, for the financial report, I'm going to give you a perspective on the audit.
Okay.
And I think that I've got my screens figured out and everything figured out while people were talking. So let me see if I can share a screen again. And I have a plan B if I didn't figure it out. Jolene is ready to go to save me. But I think I got it this time. Okay. All right, so I say that. Can you see?
Yes.
Yes.
Right, can you read? Okay. So let me go over a little bit of and can you see the years 2020 all the way to 2015 on there?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So, whoops, now I got people in front of me. There we go. So what I want to share with you, so this goes 2015. The change in that position I showed you per financial statements for the college was a negative 2571382. Composed of operating revenue expenses, things she went over. This, if you look horizontally, this compares, to past years. Every year on the audit, we show a negative change in that, or a change in net position being negative. And it's, this one was particularly high. So I want to go through that. First thing I want to go through, the next section, section 2, is a DDD penalty reconciliation. For those of you here last year, we had a audit of our financial aid that occurred that we had to pay a penalty of $391,000 in 2019 that was due to some non-compliance in the prior years. So I wanted to, last year I just put that in the years that the penalty occurred, not the year we had to pay it, because that's where it was actually occurred. So that's how I kind of was reconciling it out then. All this is done to give you a reconciliation of how did we really perform. The next thing I do is I take the GASB reconciliation. That is the OPEB and the pension liability that we receive from the PSRS, Peers Retirement System, that is basically based on their performance. And as you can get, their performance this year probably wasn't particularly good. They probably didn't meet where they wanted. So That's where we got a liability or an expense of 2098782 this year assigned to us as our proportional share of the liability for Pierce and PERS. So that is, again, it's non-cash, it's non-operating, it's nothing we can do, and it is nothing that we'll ever have to use, but per accounting rules, have to show it. So that adds back as 2098. If you notice, that's double what it was last year, and quite a bit more than it was in prior years when all this started in 2017. So hopefully peers will get their I guess unfunded liabilities going a little better. So so I add that back in. You would see that gets our kind of financial performance at that point back to a negative 472, the number that Rebecca mentioned when you take it out for the college. And then I want to go forward with that. So now what I do is since we're not in the public realm, I add back in depreciation because again, that's a non-cash item for us. We don't have taxes to pay. We have to worry about depreciation, all that. So I add that back in. That's to say that's a non-cash item. But then I take out those principal payments we make every year for our certificates of participation, some of the other loans we have, because that is money that comes out that isn't in the financial statement because it's a balance sheet item. So I add that back in. Then I deduct out any capital expenditures we had during the year. Since again, those are balance sheet items, but they're actual cash we pay out. And this year I added back as part of those capital expenditures, the Owen Howard capitalized expenses that we paid for them this year that we will actually roll into the overall capitalization of that project and be paid back by the foundation for those. So those were not part of the actual college's operations. So you do all that, our college operations netted out on a reconciled basis to 339,903 was what if you were to ask me what our true income loss was, that would be my answer. Compared to 755,570 last year and $1 million the year before, you can see going backwards. I want to show you what we were on pace to do because I know during the year I kept saying we're doing pretty well. Well, what I kind of added my own little one there that I can't use going forward, but I can share some perspective here. So in the fourth quarter, April, May, June, the state held back $772,228 from us because of COVID. That for all we were fully expecting. Had that not happened, we would have ended up over a $1 million actually net, which would have been the best we would have done in the past 6 years from an overall loss. So to give you a little perspective on that. Now let's go down and say, what does that mean for, I want to look at some cash operations here. Did that scroll down for you? So I've got 3 items here that give us, I think, even a better perspective on how we're looking at. If you look on the actual financial, you'll see our cash balance being $6.7 million as of June 30th. That's an increase of $2.6 million from last year's cash balance. Cash has a lot of things that impact it, i.e. we traded in some CDs that lent to cash. How you do with your accounts receivable, accounts payable. So a lot of things can impact cash. So I don't want anyone to focus on cash. I want to take you down to things that I look at as a financial officer of how are we really doing from a cash and reserve perspective. So the next one I look at is cash plus investments. What is our cash investments? Because now that takes out, did you sell investments, you put it in cash, the CDs we cashed in. So if you do that, this still looks fairly favorable. We went from a 6.87 million cash plus investments in 2019 to 8.3 this year, or a 1.4 million increase in cash and investments. Very positive. Again, that can be impacted a little bit by, well, maybe you just didn't pay your vendors, you have a huge accounts payable, or maybe everyone paid you up, so you had a small accounts receivable. So I want to take out those impacts. So what I really look at is that third item. I call it my operating assets reserve. It's my measure. That's not anything you're going to see in necessarily a book anywhere, but I take my current assets and I take out my inventories, because inventories I can't do it. They're just inventories. I take those out. But otherwise I have my current assets, which is AR, cash, and investments pretty much. Then I take out all my current liabilities plus any debt I have for the next year. So that 1.1 million you see above, I know that's coming up. So that gives me a very good kind of apples to apples perspective year over year of kind of what's my real operating position from a cash reserve standpoint at that point in time. So if you look at that, and if you look over the last 4 years of 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017, that number has remained fairly consistent. This year it went up 231,000, but it's still in that same range, which tells me over the last 4 years, we probably operated at really an overall, truly kind of break even level, a balanced budget, for lack of a better term. Had we gotten the other 772 this year, we were expecting, we would have had a fairly nice increase in that, what I consider my reserve level. But this gives you, I think, just take some of those numbers out of that audit and puts in a perspective that I think that for me gets me understand how am I really doing, what do I need to focus on, how can I make sure we do well, and gives you kind of a timeline of how those measures that are measured the exact same way every year have changed over the last few years. Okay. So, and the really thing I want to come out of that with is that we are staying, we're stable over the last 3 or 4 years in doing that even with some of the investments we made, things we've done like that. Okay. Other questions? I'm just trying to help you out with kind of.
Keith, thank you. This is informative, and it does give us a little kind of a perspective on really a lot of things, but as we know, there are some that we don't have any control of whatsoever. And it kind of, I guess it gives us the information to I feel better about where we are. Again, like we've talked, it's not where we'd like to be, but it certainly could be a much dire situation than it is. So thank you for trying to make this clear to all of us so we can kind of help ourselves understand what's going on at the college from the money side. Okay.
And that I'll leave that as my financial report for this meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Keith, very much. Does anyone else have any other financial questions for Keith? If not, board discussion, anything anyone like to bring up? I would like to follow up with Dr. Anderson's comment. The groundbreaking ceremony on Monday was outstanding. I was so pleased with considering the weather and not sure what was going to be going on and being outside. I thought our crowd was tremendous, and it showed the great support that we have, particularly in the Sedalia community, for this new innovation center. And some very, very generous gifts were made available as far as to the public, not only in dollars, but in equipment and building products. So again, we need to thank our entire community and all of our district and the people who support State Fair Community College, because it's an exciting time. And I was just so pleased with the number of people that were there and the people that we talked to. And it was very clear that we're in line with what's going on in education right now and trying to make it move forward so that we have that the type of things going on like we just had one of our former students and now a professor talk about what they're doing. It's nice to know that State Fair Community College is moving forward and staying on top of those situations. But again, it was an exciting time, and I think everything went very well. And we need to commend the entire community. And I will make a comment that Justin and his team put together a very nice venue for the out of doors on a very, very cold day. So thank you all. Okay, we will need to go into closed session, and we need to, you might verify with me, Joanne, are we going to close out of regular session completely and then go back into a new Zoom meeting?
Yes, we will close out of this meeting once we have voted to go into the closed session. And I will end this meeting, and you all have a link to join the executive session, which will be closed and not open to the public.
Okay. Okay. So we need a motion to close out of this meeting, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Do I
To
hear
go
that
into-
motion?
to go into closed session.
Yeah, for item C, for personnel, pursuant to RSMO section 610.0213.
I motion we move out of session.
I will second.
All righty, roll call. Randy Eaton,
Yes.
Justin Hubbs,
Yes.
Nicholas Strata,
Yes.
Jim Page. Jim, you're on mute. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Richard Parker,
Yes.
Patty Wood.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and end this meeting, and we will move to the executive session. Oh, Randy, you want to tell about the next meeting?
Yeah,
Pardon?
You want
Pardon?
to go ahead and announce about the next meeting date?
and adjourn this meeting, both.
Yes. I'm sorry, you're saying, I thought we were going to do that automatically.
I think she's saying announce item 14. Next meeting, January 28th.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about this, but okay, yes. Our next meeting is scheduled for January 28th at 4 p.m. And we will see where we are, but with the numbers and the things that we're hearing about the COVID, good chance that it might be Zoom again or virtual as well. So we'll adjourn out of this meeting and then go into executive session.
So move.
I'll second.
Roll call. Randy Eaton,
Yes.
Justin Hubbs,
Yes.
Nicholas Strata,
Yes.
Jim Page,
Yes.
Richard Parker,
Yes.
Patty Wood.
Yes.